Imagine it's peak summer in your hometown, where you have crashed to regenerate for a bit. The electricity has been gone for the last 6 hours. Perspiring and angry, you find the number of the state-owned discom that is distributing electricity in your town, only to find the ring fades into nothingness as the operator sleeps on it and you're left frustrated in the sweltering heat. This is not a nightmare, albeit just a glimpse of reality that often occurs or has occurred with every single one of us over the years. Electricity is a necessity, not a luxury that any layman should need to move heavens and earth to receive a continuous supply of. Keeping such a scenario in mind, the Modi government has introduced the Electricity Amendment Bill 2021, which attempts to invite private players into the sector and force the inert state discoms to up their game. However, fearing it would cut their profits, the state governments are protesting against the bill, with Mamata Banerjee leading the charge. Hi and welcome. This is TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host, Atul Mishra. And in this video, I will tell you about the Electricity Amendment Bill 2021, a masterstroke by the Modi government, and why the opposition hates it to the core. Let's begin. The Narendra Modi government has been receiving flack from the opposition over the introduction of the Electricity Amendment Bill 2021 even before it has been brought up for discussion in the parliament. The bill attempts to de-license power distribution and facilitate the entry of private companies, allowing them to compete with state-owned power distribution companies, also known as discoms. In spirit, the move would allow consumers to choose between power distribution companies. However, the opposition, led by West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, has opened up a hostile front against the government, fearing that the cash cow sector can be snatched away from the state governments. Mamata Banerjee has written to the Prime Minister requesting that the bill not be brought before Parliament, claiming it is anti-people and would promote crony capitalism. She wrote in the letter, "The dilution of the role of the State Electricity Regulatory Commission and the state distribution companies implies a political design to demolish state bodies and domestic industries. Direct interference by the central government in activities involving distribution will not be helpful to take care of the interest of the common people and the states." Similarly, Shiv Sena leader Sanjay Raut stated that the bill was not in the interest of the country and states were not consulted on its provisions. He said, "The provisions ring a danger bell for state electricity companies. A party is holding consultations in this regard." Power sector employees in Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh have also raised their voices against the bill. According to the All India Power Engineers Federation, power sector employees in Uttar Pradesh have threatened to go on strike or a no-work protest on August 10th against the bill. Typical Babu behavior. As reported by TFI, among the 17 bills that the union government had listed for the monsoon session of the parliament, the Electricity Amendment Bill 2021 has invited the most attention from the opposition. It is pertinent to note that power distribution in most of the country is currently controlled by state-owned distribution companies, with some cities including Delhi, Mumbai and Ahmedabad being exceptions where private players operate power distribution. India does excellently in terms of power generation and per unit generation, as it is one of the lowest in the world. However, the performance in distribution is dismal thanks to the monopoly of state government-owned distribution companies. On one hand, India generates surplus electricity with solar, coal and other resources at a rate that would put highly efficient players across the world to shame. But on other aggregates, technical and commercial value loss is around 21.7%. Thus, more than 1/5 of the value is destroyed in A, T and C losses during distribution, and this figure is rising. According to a World Bank report, the efficiency gap in the power sector costs the Indian economy about 4% of GDP a year, equivalent to $86 billion in the fiscal year 2016. The losses of discoms stood at rupees 33,894 crore rupees in FY 2017 and 29,452 in FY 2018 and jumped to rupees 49,623 crore rupees in FY 2019, according to the data provided in Lok Sabha. The finances of the discoms would have been much worse in FY21 had the centre not announced the rupees 1.25 lakh crore loan package to clear the dues. The introduction of private players can effortlessly fix the problem. Private entities are known for being cost-saving, minimizing losses using creativity and innovation. And if they manage to create a seamless distribution service, the public would naturally levitate towards them, leaving the discoms battling for survival, or if we perceive the jar half full, pushing them to improve their services. Speaking of discoms, we all remember the kind of problems the consumers used to face before changing the telecom operator from one company to another during the pre-privatization era, from not responding to complaints to not even caring for the woes of the consumers and the issues in porting numbers. The telecom sector has come a long way. Once the sector was privatized in the country, the consumers had multiple options, and later Telecom Regulatory Authority of India forced them to bring simple portability standards. Today, one can port the same contact to another telephone operator without any hassles. Even the private players that siphoned off the consumers with hefty bills have had to do away with the modus operandi after the introduction of another private company, that is Jio. Hence, the checks and balances in a private competition ultimately helps the consumers. With the Electricity Amendment Bill 2021, the central government will be making such portability easier. With more private players running the show, it will be a contest to perform or perish. Similarly, when in the hands of state and state-owned regulators, there is often a feeling of lethargy and complacency, which ultimately becomes the characteristic defining trait of such organizations. Filing a complaint or merely calling and asking about the status of a power cut appears a Sisyphean task. The power operators do not pick calls, cut the power unnecessarily at unscheduled times, and most importantly, there is no transparency or accountability over their actions. This is a form of corruption that has fettered for a long time, and we as lethargic consumers have legitimized this behavior. Moreover, the sector is littered with corruption, including the tendering process of materials and important supplies for the industry, where the process is completely hijacked by the state governments to favor their favorite babus. The state governments are a major accomplice in allowing this behavior. It doesn't take much to figure out why state governments and electricity unions are against the bill. If the state loses its hold over the money minting sector, the corruption transpiring under the table will not be able to fill the coffers of political parties or the unions. The government must push against the unions and implement the power sector reforms as soon as possible. India still has one of the lowest electricity consumption per capita, and since power consumption is directly proportional to GDP growth, the government is trying to reform the sector. Hence the mighty objection to the bill without reading the fine print and the rationale behind introducing it even before it is properly introduced.